Netflix has been going all in on anime as of late. We got the Scott Pilgrim anime that's not really an anime, and the Tomb Raider anime that's really not an anime. And then there's the most recently released anime, the Terminator anime. And this one, well, this one actually is an anime.
Don't lie to me.
Terminator Zero, the latest entry in a franchise that peaked over 2 decades ago. Alright, look, I'll get this out of the way right now, but I'm not a big Terminator fan. I've only seen 2 and 3, and, you know, I like them both well enough, but I'm pretty sure I'm not supposed to like this one. Like, it was the first one I watched, alright? My uncle, he put it on while I was at my grandma's. I think I was like 10. I remember having a very good time. But I want to make it clear, I wasn't excited for this anime when it got announced. Frankly, I kind of forgot about it until the day it came out. When it first got announced, I remember thinking that it was just going to be another throwaway show Netflix could add to its catalog to make you think they got plenty of quality movies and TV shows, all for you to binge to your heart's content while they raise that subscription price ever so slightly without you noticing. But I gave it a chance, and I have some thoughts. The story takes place in Tokyo 1997, although we do get a few glimpses into the distant dark future of 2022.
Really?
Malcolm Lee is one of Japan's brightest minds, and he's working on some kind of AI that will hopefully save the world from Skynet. Malcolm has dreams of Judgment Day. More than dreams, really. He seems to know the exact date at which it will transpire, and that Skynet is responsible. How does he know the future? I'm not telling. But speaking of the future, the Resistance sends a single soldier, Aiko, back in time to stop Malcolm before he launches this AI. But she's not the only one from the future looking for the guy. A Terminator, dispatched by Skynet, has been tasked with terminating Malcolm and neutralizing the AI as well. Will Malcolm's AI save humanity? Will Aiko save the future? Or will Skynet find a way to still come out on top? That's the basic plot for this 8-episode anime entry in the Terminator franchise. Terminator Zero is an attempt to course correct after releasing a failed reboot and a disrespectful sequel. This one's easily better than either Genesis or Dark Fate, but, you know, is that really saying much? Probably not. The story is a game of cat and mouse split up between lectures on the nature of humanity. There's a lot of talking between Malcolm and his AI creation, and it's meant to be very thought-provoking, but kind of just comes across as heavy-handed and overly basic, misanthropic even. I mean, at one point, Malcolm's AI is asking him to name a single good thing humanity created, and it's supposed to be like this deep gotcha moment, but I know better. I've seen the Christ-pilled wasted edit.
I'm coming to kill you!
Now, this isn't another Terminator reboot or even a sequel to the one Terminator film everyone loves. It's a show that treats all the Terminator films as canon and tries to craft a story that explains how that's possible. But that's not to say that the show is only concerned with doing some housekeeping on the franchise. It does present a unique take on a Terminator tale by moving things over to the land of the rising sun. This was actually something Production IG pushed for, and it was a pretty good move in my opinion. Not because I wanted to see more Japanese cultural elements, although, you know, I think Japan is always peak, but because Japan doesn't have a Second Amendment, and since access to firearms is so limited over there, both the Terminator and Aiko have to make do with 6-shooters and other smaller weapons instead of miniguns and whatnot. This leads to some really cool developments, like the Terminator constructing a makeshift crossbow on his arm that shoots off spare pieces of himself. Unfortunately though, this angle is kind of dropped halfway through once the special forces get involved, but it was neat while it lasted. The characters in this anime are nothing special. The best one is probably Malcolm. He's the typical 90s dad who's too busy with work to be there for the kids, and then his kids get wrapped up in something dangerous. But in this case, you kind of understand why he's so caught up in his work, since it's going to determine the fate of the world. Or at least he genuinely believes that's the case. This is pretty interesting on its own, but I think what really made me like this guy was his VA, Andre Holland. He's that guy from the Buck-Breaking movie, and he's pretty good in this. But most of the other characters can either be described in a single word or not, because they get practically no characterization. This applies to Aiko most of all. I guess she's the main character, or at least a main character, but there's really nothing to her. She's a resistance soldier who's good at fighting, but other than that, she's got generic goals like wanting to save humanity and trying to always do the right thing, but she's just not that interesting. Even though the idea behind her is potentially very interesting. I thought they were gonna make her into a human Terminator. And I don't mean like she'd be a cyborg or something, I mean like her plan to save humanity in the future would lead her to kill another person in the past. You know, just like a Terminator. Towards the start of the show, we even see her kill a number of people who get in her way. It's still something she tries to avoid. I mean, she's not some bloodthirsty psycho or an emotionless machine, but when push comes to shove, she'll pull the trigger instead of taking a chance. That got me excited to see what she'd do for the sake of the mission. You know, how far is she willing to go for humanity? But the story doesn't really go in that direction. While I have some problems with these characters, I don't have any problems with the soundtrack. It's very subtle, usually pretty quiet and kept to the background, but it's got this slightly depressing sound to it that works well with the tone of the show. The animation is a little more of a mixed bag. I like the general look of the show. The future scenes are dirty and bleak, and the stuff in the present, while looking cleaner, still seems pretty gloomy. I also liked how there were sometimes these different highlight colors on the edges of the characters that contrasted with the backdrops. Sometimes it's purple, sometimes it's blue. It's nothing major, but it does keep the show from looking bland. However, that can't be said about the action scenes. The animation here, it's not bad, but it's not great either. The movement can get pretty wooden at times, and even after finishing the show, there's not a single fight I can remember for the visuals alone. Also, and now get ready for the hottest take you'll ever hear, but I wasn't all that thrilled with the CGI. It's not too reliant on CG, and there are certain instances where it kind of makes sense for the CGI models, but I can't tell you how disappointed I felt when I saw that the trademark Terminator skeleton was just gonna be CGI pretty much every time it pops up. Now this next point might just be a personal thing of mine, but the show is just not as gory as I expected it to be. I mean, initially, I didn't expect any gore whatsoever, but then like a minute into the very first episode, we got some guy with his intestines hanging out, begging to be put out of his misery, which made me think, oh, we're getting Edgerunners again. But aside from this instance and maybe like one or two smaller things in future episodes, this show isn't very gory. Bloody? Yeah, sure, there's blood. But the first episode really got my expectations up for something more. And it's weird too because there's a lot of frick bombs dropped in this show, so it's clearly not trying to be PG-13 or anything. Again, I don't think it needed to be more gory, but it is a little weird that it's not. Then there's the issue with plot armor. Way too often do the main characters survive encounters they have no business surviving based on their actions. Like at one point, Aiko gets into a fist fight with the Terminator, and she can not only block his attacks and punch him without breaking her hand, but she even grapples him and starts taking hits for like a good 10 seconds. Now, I'm not too familiar with the lore here, but these guys are made of metal. I don't know how she survives a single punch, let alone like 5. Wouldn't her back be broken or something? I don't remember the show saying she had a cybernetic skeleton or anything. And then she's able to push him down an elevator shaft after one of his knees gives out from chemical damage. But again, he's made out of solid metal, and now I don't want to do a sexism here, but she's, you know, a lady. I point this out to show how the Terminator in this show is not very threatening. It never feels like our main characters are actually in any real danger. Them escaping the threat every time is fine. I just wish the show came up with more creative ways to deal with the deadly robot besides shooting, punching, and the occasional chemical weapon. Terminator Zero is a decent anime with a decent amount of problems too. It's nowhere near as bad as I expected it to be, but certainly not as good as some people are making it out to be. But the fact that even some people are praising this thing should be enough to pique your curiosity. I mean, I can't remember the last time someone said anything nice about a new Terminator thing. So does that mean this one's worth watching? Well, I mean, if you're looking for a sci-fi anime involving robots and AI made by Production IG, then I'd say watch Ghost in the Shell, or Psycho-Pass, or Vivi. There's always Vivi. That one even has time travel, so it's perfect for Terminator fans. Yeah, I know it's WIT, not IG, but like, doesn't IG own them or something? Whatever, it doesn't matter. If you've already seen all these anime and have nothing else to watch, and you're just looking for a halfway decent show to unwind to after a hard day of avoiding human contact, then sure, add this one to the list. Anyway, until next time, Ave Maria, Deus Vult, and a big thank you to all the cultured.